Could you talk a bit about your university and how it is to study in it?
Yeah, so we're all part of the University of Limerick in Limerick, Ireland. A mixture of bachelor's degrees and masters. We come from a variety of different courses. We have a lot of people doing aeronautical engineering in the group. A bunch of people doing AI and other coding-based courses, which is brilliant for the electronics and the more complicated parts that some of us wouldn't really know, doing the kind of the structures of the aeronautical. Yeah, it's a brand kind of a newish thing. So HiPR split off from EuRoC pretty recently, which was set up under UL's clubs and societies, which has been, it's a big thing over here in terms of like how much it costs. In Ireland, we're pretty lucky that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg like over in America. So it's about my fees would be about $3,500 for a year, €3,500, and living over here is relatively cheap for a big city, but it depends on if you can find the accommodation. At the minute, we don't really have any scholarships or grants if you're looking at the HiPR or joining this team. If you want to get a scholarship or grant, you'd have to be in certain sports. But a lot of people come to this university because of the aeronautical. There's not many space or even aerospace courses in Ireland. So it's a big attraction of the University of Limerick.
I think Sean and Joe have also travelled abroad with during their studies. So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm also part of the team. I'm also one of the founding members of EuRoC a couple of years ago when we founded the society. And then last year, I got the opportunity to do a study abroad in the United States. I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona, Florida. That was a great experience at such a high quality school, which actually just last week, a student project from that school designed and manufactured a camera, which was on board the lander, which just landed. So it kind of just goes to show how far students can go in terms of rocketry and space. And I think that's what we strive for. I would really recommend doing an Erasmus just for anyone who gets the opportunity. It really teaches you a lot about yourself, independence, and you get to see a lot more culture around the world.
What are your job opportunities you have after university?
We get a lot of outreach to companies and people in like the European Space Agency and these kind of really big space giants in Europe, which is brilliant. So in terms of job opportunities, we already have kind of people out there. We're reaching out to people who are alumni or people who've qualified in these companies. And hopefully, obviously this is pretty new, so we don't know so far, but hopefully some of us will go on to work for said companies, because it's a brilliant thing for us to be doing here, to be building rockets. And it's the amount of attention we're getting from these people, from these companies who are looking at us and going, wow, these guys are doing really, really well. Yeah, it's looking really, really good. Talk to, like, in terms of networking, we've done a lot of talking to even other rocketry teams. So we were talking to Aerotech Red. We did a Q&A session with them. They're a Portuguese team. We have contacts to launch the rockets. We have contacts in the military, and also we're talking to a lot of other small teams in Ireland who are trying to start up and get off the ground. So, in terms of reaching out and making connections, it's a brilliant thing to be in.
What's the experimental rocketry community like in your country?
Kind of rocketry in Ireland kind of has a bit of a rocky history in that there was a big scene with the Irish Rocketry Society there in the last kind of 20 years or so. And there's definitely some projects happening in the 90s and the early 2000s. But then there was kind of some complications with launch sites and things, and that kind of died off for a bit. But now in kind of the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years, you've got a lot of kind of college teams like ourselves are kind of picking up the mantle. So, you've got ourselves in Limerick. There's Aerospace in Dublin. They're kind of a lot of universities from Dublin. Then there's the University of Galway. There's SETU in Carlow. They've all got kind of different rocketry activities of different degrees. Some of them are thinking competitions. Some of them are going the R&D side and doing, more experimental things. And then others are kind of more just looking at putting it as part of their coursework. So I think especially in the last kind of year or so, there's been a lot of startups and things. And hopefully in the next 5 years, there'll be a lot of exciting things happening in Ireland. And hopefully there will pop up more kind of a space industry here now when a lot of that kicks off.
Yeah, like even last week, we were only talking to someone who was a previous like UL alumni who was building liquid rocket engines in UL in like the 90s. So there is a history of this kind of stuff in Ireland. It just never really took hold and took a root. Like those people would build that rocket engine and then graduate and it'd just be forgotten about. And then someone else would kind of do something similar a couple of years later and be forgotten about. So we're really hoping that we can set something up that's kind of permanent now.